Hello and welcome to the Selling in Retail, which is an online course which is here to support anybody who didn't make the online and present on the Zoom call course in late 2024. So this is a short course with the associated slides taking you through selling in retail, and hopefully by the end of this course that you will have some perhaps light bulbs that you can take away with you and help you in selling into retail. So first of all, my name is Charlie Boyle. I'm a tutor with Retail Ireland SkillNet, and I would like to thank Retail Ireland SkillNet as well as Skill for Retail for bringing us this program. The program is co-funded by the European Union, and without them, none of these short courses, the online version and this shorter self-directed learning would be possible. So we thank all of the three, Skills for Retail, Retail Ireland SkillNet, and the European Union for bringing us this course. The agenda for the short course today is a quick introduction. We'll look at the objectives of the course. We'll look at what is selling. We'll look at modern selling. We'll look at selling skills. We'll have a look at why do people buy, and then finally, ethical persuasion. So the objectives of today is to have a look at retail selling in 2024-25 and to see where small 1% changes and adjustments can help to make a difference. And really, we must be realistic, I suppose, and what's the expectation of today's course. But if we can see where we can get small 1% changes and maybe just a couple of adjustments to make that difference, great things can happen as a result of those smaller changes. Selling is the process of exchanging goods, services, or ideas for money or value. It involves persuading or convincing a customer to make a purchase, typically by demonstrating the value or benefits of a product or service that satisfies their needs or solves a problem. So, very often when we talk about selling, we talk about problem solving. Basically, what happens, the consumer, the customer, comes into our stores or our place of work and they have a problem. And it may be that their shoes are wearing out, they have a wedding coming up, they need another pair of shoes, they need something to go to suit that they have, they don't have a tie that's matching. So there is an underlying problem. And really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify what the challenge or the problem for the customer is. The key aspects of selling: understanding the customer's needs, building relationships, offering solutions to the problems, communicating value, handling objections, closing the sale, and then the follow-up and the aftercare element of selling. Modern selling. The purpose of selling, the goal of selling is not just to complete a transaction, but to fulfill the customer's needs in a way that creates satisfaction, loyalty, and trust. Successful selling often involves providing value, building long-term relationships, and aligning products with the customer's desires or problems. In today's retail environment, selling is more customer-centric, focusing on creating exceptional experiences, providing personalized solutions, and integrating technology for convenience, such as online shopping, mobile payments, social media engagement. It's less about aggressive persuasion and more about understanding and aligning with what the customer wants. The skills of selling. What are the skills that we will require for selling? First of all, we have product knowledge. We're going to need a level of product knowledge. We're going to need a level of digital skills to be able to operate the tools that help us to deliver it digitally. And then we'll have human skills. And one of the questions we would ask, if you have pen or paper, you may write this down as we talk through this slide and these skills of selling. So if you have pen and paper, what I might ask you to do is to write down what you believe the breakdown of those three skill sets are. Because if you are involved in selling, you don't need any skill set other than these three, although these are quite important skill sets. So, what's the level of product knowledge that you require? What's the level of digital skills you require? And what's the level of human skills you require? Now, if all of those in total were out of 100, you can't put down 33%, for example, but what percentage of the skills that you require for selling do you believe is product knowledge? Do you need to know everything about every single product you sell? Is that possible? Or do you at least need to know some product knowledge and to be able to acquire the product knowledge that you don't have by getting it maybe online or getting it from a device or from a colleague? So, what percentage of product knowledge do you require? Although we live in a digitally disrupted world and we may think that we need to be digital experts, do we really? So, in the art of selling and the skills required for selling, what percentage of the skills do we require to be digital skills? And that leaves us with human skills. Would we get away with a small amount of human skills, or are the human skills that we require in selling actually quite high? So, how would you break that down? Don't overthink it. Write it down on that sheet of paper. If you don't have pen and paper, maybe you're traveling with phone and listening to these slides on a mobile app or, in a bus somewhere, just think about what percentage of product knowledge do you need? What percentage of digital skills do you need? What percentage of human skills do you need? So, what I'm going to reveal now is the research that we carried out in the last number of years from around 2021 up to the current time suggests that in retail, 35% is product knowledge. 35% of the skills or the knowledge that we require will be around the product knowledge. You might think that's low, but you might have a lot of items and you can't be an expert on them all. But what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to find that knowledge quickly. And that's probably why the figure is 35%. So in your head and your own ability without checking it out is around 35%. Digital skills is only around 15%. So the skills that you require to operate on average are about 15%. Now, some people within retail will need a higher level of digital skills than other because they may be trading online. That leaves human skills at around 50% of the skills of the future that we are going to require. So we require a higher level of human skills than we do of product knowledge in whatever store we're working. That's not for everyone. That's an average. So when we look at these human skills, we can see that they're in four categories. The interpersonal and communication skills, which are mainly between the staff member and the customer. Then we have the leadership and the self-management skills. These are more so for managers, supervisors, those in a senior position. Then we have specialized knowledge. There are only three in that box so far: digital integrity, ethical judgment and integrity, and sustainability awareness. And then for those who are creating, maybe designing, creating problem solving, design thinking, innovation and creativity is also important. So one of the things we may challenge you to do on this short course is to look at this slide, perhaps afterwards, and write down 8 of these human skills that you would like to develop yourself. They don't have to be 2 from each box. They could be 5 from one box and 3 from another. They could be 2 from each box, or they could be 1 from the specialized knowledge box, and then possibly a breakdown of the others. Imagine that this was a menu. Imagine that we had gone into TGI Fridays. You can't eat everything on the menu, and we seldom do. But perhaps there are 8 items there that we might choose. So what are those 8 human skills that perhaps in the next year you might look at, you might look to develop? That again could be directed learning from yourself. It could be a course that you go on to. or it could be something that you maybe ask Retail Ireland to put together for you if you are talking on behalf of a company. Otherwise, as an individual, you might go to your learning and development supervisor or manager and say, these skills are skills that I would like to develop. Why are we saying this? Because we're agreeing that 50% of the skills of the future in selling are going to be human skills. So it's in our interest to develop and promote and improve our human skills so that we're better at selling. The human skills of selling include emotional intelligence, storytelling, cross-cultural understanding, social impact, sustainability awareness. And these are key human skills that, again, have changed in recent times. Sometimes we have to be really, really good storytellers. So the art of storytelling is something we must get better at. Why? Because people buy stories. They like the story. We need to know the frame and the shaping of a story. How do we tell a story about a successful sale we had in the past? What about cross-cultural understanding? Understanding the cultures of others and letting them understand our culture. What social impact does the work that we have do? And the sustainability awareness, being aware that we are sustainable and that we are ethically in a good place. Why do people buy? People buy for a variety of reasons, and their motivation can be complex. It can be influenced by emotional, psychological, social, and practical factors. Here are some key reasons why people make purchases: to solve a problem or to meet a need, a desire for convenience, emotional satisfaction, social influence and status. It could be an aspirational purchase, identity and self-expression, value and quality perception, a fear of missing out, trust and relationships, habitual behavior, and finally, curiosity or novelty. There's 11 reasons why people buy, and knowing and understanding why people buy is part of the art of selling. An additional 5 is promotions and discounts, influence of marketing and advertisement, security and risk avoidance, support of causes or values, and a good story. Again, understanding these motivators help businesses craft effective marketing strategies and offer solutions that resonate with the target audience. Remember, sales is not a dirty word. For a business to be sustainable, for a business to be successful, for a business to continue, it must have sales. What it does with the profit is sometimes that which causes controversy. But most businesses, by and large, are responsible with their profit. Sales in the past sometimes got a bad name because it was seen as being manipulative, but sales is not a dirty word, and we must get used to using it with pride. Ethical persuasion. Ethical persuasion is that which allows us to, in an ethical way, persuade to somebody that one course of action or one product or one service is of benefit and adds value to their lives. The opposite of ethical persuasion would be manipulation. In other words, that we're trying to close a sale just to close the sale or just to meet a target that we may have. Eventually, that burns out the customer relationship and, in fact, can very often turn on ourselves. So when we're thinking of sales, we should think of the term ethical persuasion. Ethical persuasion involves transparency, honesty, respect for autonomy, fairness, consistency with values, empathy, building trust, informed consent, avoidance of psychological manipulation, and long-term relationship focus. The 6 pillars of good customer experience, and therefore the 6 pillars of selling, because selling and customer experience are both intertwined. The 6 pillars, again, developed in huge research by KPMG for the last 10 years, are integrity, personalization, empathy, resolution, time and effort, and expectation. Integrity is about being honest. It's about telling the truth. It's about helping the other person for their benefit, not always ours. Personalization is about the building of that relationship, getting to know the customer, getting to know their needs, establishing and maintaining that relationship. Empathy is about listening to what they need, not what we want to give them. Resolution is about solving any problem that comes up in the process. It's in our interest to resolve, to take ownership of the resolution, to fix something when it goes wrong, to handle a complaint when it lands on our table, not if it lands, because we will get complaints, we will get things that we have to resolve. So be that problem solver. Time and effort. In Ireland in particular, we like it frictionless. We don't like delays, we don't like queues, we don't like having to make a huge effort. So take the effort out of it and take the time out of it for the customer and take control and ownership of that. And the other one is expectation. It's about meeting or exceeding whatever the expectation the customer has. So try and ascertain what the expectation of the customer is. Manage that first of all if it's an over expectation, and then we should exceed the expectation on the other side. So what's out there? Sales is of huge importance. I was very lucky a few years ago to get involved in the establishment of a sales apprenticeship in Ireland. And it was actually one of the first sales apprenticeships in all of Europe. That sales apprenticeship was going really well. And part of that, what I found out was a lot of the bigger companies didn't particularly want somebody with a sales degree coming out of third level because they felt that it was very theoretical. It lacked the practical application. So there are a lot of sales jobs. Companies need to sell. So therefore, they need somebody to sell for them. There are sales positions. The good thing about selling is it can be transferable in terms of skills. So you could be selling T-shirts today, but you could be selling cars next week. You could be selling oil this week, and in 2 months' time, you may develop your sales skills into a totally different sector, like engineering. So sales is about being a good person. It's about being smart, building relationships, about emotional intelligence, about connection, about empathy. And if you have those skills and you develop those human skills, and you have an element of digital skills, and then the product knowledge for that sector can be learned, you can become an outstanding salesperson. If the will is there to be curious about learning and developing, that's where the growth happens. And that's normally where the best salespeople come from. They don't necessarily come through the sector, but in retail, there's a great opportunity because, of course, retail is the biggest employer in the country. And as the biggest employer as a sector in the country, it has the biggest amount of sales positions. So the work that Skills for Retail, Retail Ireland SkillNet, funded by the European Union, have brought to us is this ability to improve, continuous improvement in the area of selling in retail. I would like to thank you very much for joining us on this short program. This is not as a replacement for the online Zoom present program. That means being here in present. But hopefully it will have helped in some way to bring selling skills to the forefront of your mind, to make you more curious about other projects that are available. Other areas such as the apprenticeship in retail supervision, or the sales apprenticeship, or the retail degree which is available. Otherwise, short courses brought to you by Skills for Retail are always very helpful. So be curious, ask your supervisor, and if you are a supervisor or a manager, do ask Retail Ireland SkillNet for any courses that you want to have provided. It's been a pleasure to join you today, and we wish you all the best in your sales career.